finally doing a video that a bunch of you guys have been asking for, which is really just talking about and kind of comparing my older 335 to this car, which is an E92 M3. It's 2011. So just, I guess, if you're new to the channel or you haven't watched my videos in the past, I did have a 2011 335i. It was that N55 engine, which I did still like. You know, people kind of bashed it for you know, not having as much power and stuff like that, but it was extremely reliable. It sounded pretty good, and you know, fuel efficient. It was just, man, it was such a great car. But now I have a 2011 M3, and which both of them were manual, by the way, and it's just, it looks really similar, especially because I got white. Both of them were white. And really, I guess the logical reason going from the 335 to the M3 is the 335 was actually totaled. I hit a patch of ice and it's gone, but you know, the most logical place to go was an E92 M3 right now in my life, given you know, the financial situation, and I've always wanted one. I've always wanted an M3. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, I just assumed that by the time I could afford an M3, I would end up just being in the F80 category, where you know, I would just end up getting an F80 of some sort. So anyways, I was just under the assumption that I would never be at a point in my life that it was convenient to get an M3, an E92. I just assumed that hopefully, you know, in the future I would make more money, and then eventually I didn't want a super old car that was older. But since the 335 was gone, it was honestly such an amazing chance to jump into the E92. But anyways, let's get to kind of what the comparisons are. I sort of got a little distracted there, but I want to first start off by saying they are definitely different cars. So you have to drive them differently. The 335 was a turbo 6-cylinder car, and this one is a naturally aspirated V8. So all the power is like probably at like 5 grand or more. This M3 revs to 8,400 RPM, which is like nothing you've ever experienced. At least I've never experienced anything like it, in like the best way possible. I mean, the 335i was an awesome car, don't get me wrong, but this one, you really have that like that perspective of, like, when you're revving it out that far, there's really nothing like it. Speaking of, so time for a little tunnel action. I'm a douche, that's okay. The girl behind me is like really confused. But anyways, the power delivery is way different. That is one huge thing. Like I said, they're totally different cars and you have to drive them way differently. All the power on the 335 was down low. All the power here is way up high. So you really have to downshift and keep the RPMs high if you want to be passing someone. If you're at 2,000 RPM, it's not going to be fun. You're going to pretty much hate this car. And kind of vice versa with the 335. You know, revving it out's fun, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't optimal. It wasn't nearly as fun. Doing a little. All right, so let's go to the second point, which I sort of illustrated there, is the handling. The handling on these cars is way different. The 335, I had a sport package, and I had 19-inch wheels and some hand coupe tires, so it was, you know, it performed well. as a great daily driver and like a normal car, but this thing is so nimble. Like you can throw, like I haven't even come close to the limits of this car yet, at least from what I can tell. It's like, you can tell that this thing can handle a lot of track days and a lot of performance, even just going around the turns. Like, you can tell that the rotation, it's just gonna keep going for you. And the suspension is just way different. So suspension and engine power delivery are really the two biggest things. You know, the cabin is very, very similar. The shifter is a little different, but still BMW, I would say. It's really not tremendously different, but it's definitely, you know, it is a little bit to get used to. It's different enough. And by the way, I mean, these cars only share like 30% of the parts. So only 30% of the parts are actually the same, I believe, kind of just on the normal 3 Series and the M3. So, man, that's maybe the doors and like the trunk lid and, you know, other stuff like that. The parts that aren't really performance oriented are, you know, pretty much the same. But kind of in general, you know, to be honest with you guys, the 335i I would say is a better daily, just because it's better on gas. You know, it's not as harsh of a ride. Not that the M3 is super harsh, because it's really not. But you know, when you're kind of in traffic and you know, you're kind of navigating in short distances and sort of commuting, it does. You know, I sort of think, you know, the 335i is better. It's not a significant difference, but it is different, I would say, coming from the 335i to the M3. You know, the 335i is better at a, you know, a daily commuting car. Yeah, see, I downshifted to 4,000 RPM and it's flooring it. You know, it's just doing its thing, and you know, it's nothing. 4,000, it's barely pulling me. But I also don't really want to get a ticket. So really the biggest things you know, I already mentioned, but the M3 is definitely a dailyable car. Anyone who tells you otherwise, I guess is really sensitive to, you know, a manual transmission or the ride or whatever. I guess it depends what your definition is and how your commute is, you know, how long it is and how much traffic. No one wants to drive a manual in traffic, so get the DCT if you're worried about that. But you know, the gas mileage isn't that great, but that is a Hyundai Sonata with an exhaust on it. That's very interesting. You know, it is nice to have the you know, the M, you know, the legit like performance version of the cars, pretty much the highest of the high that they made, besides, you know, the specialty versions, whether it's like a Lime Rock or whatever it happens to be. But it is kind of nice when someone says, oh cool, you have an M3, but I don't really feel any different. I just feel different driving it, like it performs different. So I think those are gonna be it. I don't really think there's a lot of other justifiable points to mention here. It's an amazing car. The sound, the V8, it's definitely, someone said, I can't remember who it was, maybe it was one of my friends, they said it's like Euro muscle, and it really is, especially on cold starts, but especially when it's like warm and then I let it sit, like I'll go to the gym for an hour or whatever, and then I'll come back and start it and it like goes like it when it's warming up again. And that is just like, oh, it's so like raw. It's definitely way more raw than the 335i, and the 335i is more chill, quick, fun, but not as like in your face raw, like I'm a beefy muscle car. And I know that this is not a race car or like a muscle car, but like it feels way more like a race car than the 335i. It really, really does. I forget I'm driving it sometimes, like the M, you know, I forget that it's like, it wants to go. The 335i wants to go too, but not nearly as much. So I think that's gonna do it. I kind of droned on a little bit. Hopefully that answered a lot of your guys' questions. You know, this is the highest performance version, definitely dailyable, amazing exhaust sound, good engine sound, V8, can't go wrong with that. And I freaking love driving this car. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks for listening, and comment below if I did forget anything. Hopefully I remembered to say everything important, and I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video.